Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Data Science. My name is Sina Goldback. Here I'm gonna show you how you can create dummy variables using SAS. In the previous videos I explained what is dummy variables, how you can use Python. In this one I'm gonna show you how you can use SAS to create dummy variables. So I'm gonna work with SAS Enterprise Guide, which I downloaded from SAS on Demand, SAS website, which is free for students. And I'm gonna work with dataset called SAS Help Card, which is very common dataset. Who already using SAS, they know this dataset. However, if you don't know this dataset, I just ran proc contents to see this dataset. This dataset has 14 variables. Some are numeric, some are character. So I'm gonna create dummy variables from drivetrain, which I did a proc for this one. You see it has all front and rear values. So let's start creating dummy variables. SAS does not have any function to create dummy variables compared to Python, which has get dummies and one hot encoder. So just you need to code it, right? Say, let me create data set called in my library temp dot cars. Let's say cars underscore dom, which has my dummy variables. I'm gonna set SAS help dot cars. So the first part of coding says if derived train equal to all, then dom, let's say dom underscore all equal 1. Close this one and say else this variable dom all equals 0, right? So the good thing with SAS is not sensitive to lowercase or uppercase on the variable name, but it is sensitive to lowercase and uppercase of the value of the variable, and it's normal because the values could be changed. So I already created one dummy variable. I'm gonna go to second one, which is from front wheel drive. If it's front, I'm gonna put it here, front. So the DOM front is 1 and 0. So let's run this code and see my new data set, which has two categorical, it's dummy variables. You can use procfrec at the same time to see these two variables. I'm gonna do procfrec on my new data set, which is called cars underscore dom. So, and put tables. The tables says okay, leave name SAS help. Sorry, I have problem here. SAS help. I'm gonna do it one more time. And the table, so you can put just dom all underscore all and the dom underscore front. So you will see the frequency of these two variables. It looks like SAS is able to create my data set, new data set without any error. Let's see, wait for the result. Oh yeah, we have it here. You can see SAS DOM, it created. So you will have two dummy variable at the end of this data set. You can see them here. We created already, and you can easily see the frequency. So the problem with this method is uh, coding is hard because if you have a variable with 10 categories, so you have to do if then for 9 times. And if you want to do, you see the frequency came already, the result here. If you have 5, 6 variable, categorical variables, and you want to use SAS, so, and each one has 5 categories, it's 5 times 4, it means you have to do it 20 if and then. So there is some trick someone develop these tricks, which is using GLM method. What is the GLM method? We call it general linear method. In the general linear method, SAS could handle, let's say, categorical variables. But what is the story of creating dummy variables with general linear models? Because general linear model creates dummy variables of the categorical variables you already use as a class, then it's saved as a macro variables and you can reach them, right? Reach out them with some codes. This is a code I already created a macro code. You see, I have dataset input, dataset output, variable list, which is for your class variables. So for that reason, I'm going to create a fake dataset and add a fake value underscore one underscore y equals 0 and I close this data set. Then I'm gonna use proc glm select. Maybe you can use proc glm, it is the same with this fake data set, and I'm gonna put something like no print now. I don't want to make it like a slower, so I ignore some options of the proc glm. So I'm gonna model underscore y with this variable list. So what will happen when you run this macro? It will create a fake value dataset and underscore y. Then it will model your class variable with this y. What will happen? It will create dummy variable for these variables, right? So let's go and run this macro for one of your other data sets. So percent dummy vars, what is my input? You see here it says DSN. I'm gonna put SAS help dot cars, comma, what is the variable list? You can add all the variable list here. I'm gonna put, for example, drive train, and let's say type. However, whatever you want put, right? How many, what, if you need 10, you can put 10 here. And the last one is my output. You can call it whatever you want. I'm gonna call cars. Let's call this one dom underscore cars. So we're gonna close it and run it. You will see this data set. It has my uh, dummy variables for these oh sorry, I will have a problem because I called it thrived rain. Let me change this one to D and run it again. So yeah, so let's run it again, and hopefully we can get the variables. So let's since we will have this data set. Oh, open lookup variables, SAS help again. We will have problem here. SAS help. Let's create a proc frequency, see proc content of the new data sets variables, right? So data equal, what is my new data set? It's temp dom cars. I think it is okay. It is running. It will create me new data set and say, let's say proc contents run. So I'm gonna run it and see we have already this data set, and let's it is freezing. Okay, let me close this one. You can see this data set easily. I even drive train at the beginning of the data set type. You can see these are all my dummy variable. It's created until here, but I'm gonna show you the proc contents. Actually, let's ignore proc contents because you see already these variables. So let's do procfreg on this data set because I want to see one of my dummy variables. What is the dummy variable's name? For example, here it says type sedan, right? Here it says type sedan. But the problem is uh, it has space in his name. This will create problem because if you say type sedan, SAS won't read these variables because it will say, "Oh, I can't find type sedan because it think it is two variables." How we can solve this problem? You can solve this problem with putting in the variable in between the quotation and adding n at the end. So you will see this one will have problems. So far the problem with this method is uh, so the variable name has space. You can easily remove the variable name space in the variable names with some coding. If you can do that just with this method. You can use these variables wherever you want in your coding. You will see now proc freq with this type sedan because we used quotation and n with lowercase. You see we got its uh, frequency. So this is one of the methods. If you want use these dummy variables, you have their name, you can use them. But another good thing is SAS saves these categorical dummy variables in one macro list, which is they call it underscore GLS mode. Right, this is the variable called GLS mode. Since this is a, macro variable, you need to add and before that one. Let's put instead of in the previous frequency, instead of this variable, you can easily put this one and SAS will print all the macro variables you have. So what is the point of using this macro variable which has all your dummy variables? So when you are doing modeling, you can say proc, for example, reg, which is for proc regression. So you have your data set here, which has your dummy variables. You see here, you got all the frequencies for your dummy variables, and you don't need to worry about their names because they have a space. So you want to, I'm going to put this one here. And if you want to model it, just say model. For example, I know there is a variable called invoice. So, and in my dependent variable, I'm going to use these dummy variables. And you can use another numeric variables if you have in your mod in data set, like here we have horsepower, but now we want to see the impact of these dummy variables and horsepower on invoice. I'm not gonna interpret this one, but I'm just showing how you can use these dummy variables in your model because uh, SAS creates list of dummy variables. In the next video, I will talk about how you can interpret dummy variables in your regression or logistic regression or your model. Meanwhile, you see here we got the result. You see all these dummy variables are here and we have horsepower here. However, there is an issue with the drivetrain rear because as I said, you need only two dummy variables for here, but you used already three. The trick is you have to drop this one or these with some in somewhere so you don't need to use it. If you want use to know what is my reference for this video, it's I'm using SAS blog to get all this information. Please follow for further videos and further information and see my next video how you can interpret dummy variables inside a model.